Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The walls of their two-bedroom apartment were bare except for a small corkboard pinned with colorful sticky notes. Some said, "Keep pushing." Others had sketches of building plans. Adana sat cross-legged on the floor, poring over her design portfolio. Her phone buzzed. Tolu, investor, backed out. "Can't talk." "Don't wait up." She stared at the screen, lips tightening. He hadn't even asked how her interview went. Adana had just declined the offer of a lifetime, a dream job with an international firm in Dubai, a chance to design sustainable housing complexes across continents. But she'd said no. All for him. For Tolu. For the man she believed in when no one else did. They had been married 3 years, and for just as long Tolu had been chasing his startup dream, a tech firm he swore would revolutionize rural health tracking in Nigeria. Adana, ever supportive, helped design his pitch decks, crafted mock-ups, even covered the rent with freelance design gigs. She believed in him. She chose him. But lately it felt like she was the only one choosing. Adana stood, stretching her back. She walked into the kitchen, reaching for the last sachet of milk to make a cup of tea. As the kettle whistled, she placed her hand on her stomach and froze. A sharp flutter. Then again. She smiled, slow, startled, then overwhelmed. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend. "Donnie, I think I'm pregnant." A gasp echoed through the speaker. "Girl, are you serious? I've missed my period. Twice. I thought it was stress. But, today? I felt it." Donnie squealed. "Have you told Tolu?" "No, not yet. I want to confirm first." "All right. But if it's true, Adana, this could change everything." She wasn't sure if that was hope or fear in her friend's voice. The next morning she picked up a test from a nearby pharmacy. She held the stick in shaking hands, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a gem drum. 2 bold lines. Positive. Tears welled in her eyes, not from fear but from fierce maternal joy. After years of praying, hoping, and pouring her soul into their marriage, a baby. Her baby. When Tolu came home that evening, smelling faintly of stale coffee and exhaustion, Adana greeted him at the door with a smile. "You're in a good mood," he said, brushing past her into the living room. "I have something to tell you." He paused, loosening his tie. "What is it?" "You finally took the Dubai job." Her heart sank a little at that. "No. I'm pregnant." Tolu blinked. "You're what?" "Pregnant," she said again, placing a hand on her belly, already loving the life inside her. Tolu stared, his face unreadable. For a second it was as if time paused. Then he forced a smile and moved toward her, hugging her loosely. "Wow. That's big." She pulled back. "You don't look happy." "I'm just shocked, that's all. I thought we were being careful." "It's a blessing, Tolu," she said, searching his eyes. "This baby is part of us." He nodded, but something in his gaze had shifted. Detached. Far away. Later that night, as she lay beside him, unable to sleep, Tolu's phone vibrated against the nightstand. She glanced at it. The screen lit up briefly with a message. "She's gone. You know what to do." Adana's breath hitched. "She's gone?" Oh. She sat up slightly, staring at the message, but before she could read more, the phone dimmed again. Tolu stirred beside her. "Everything okay?" She forced her voice steady. "Yeah. Just couldn't sleep." He turned away, mumbling something unintelligible, already drifting back to sleep. But Adana stayed wide awake. Over the next week, she buried herself in baby blogs, design sketches, and prenatal yoga tutorials. She plastered sticky notes around the house that read, "Strong mama loading, baby Tolu or baby Ada, and we've got this." But every time she looked at Tolu, she saw a wall rising between them. His smiles were thinner. His kisses shorter. He started working late more often, claiming back-to-back meetings. He even missed their first ultrasound appointment. When he finally showed up at 11 p.m., Adana was curled up on the couch, the scanned photo clutched in her hand. "I waited," she said softly, her voice tight. Tolu didn't meet her eyes. Something came up. "You couldn't even text?" "I said I'm sorry, Adana," he snapped. "Do we really have to do this right now?" She stood, hurt etched across her face. "This is your child too, Tolu." He rubbed his forehead. "I know, okay? I've got a lot on my mind." Adana stared at the man she had once called her soulmate. His face looked the same, but the heart behind it felt miles away. That night, as she lay in bed, listening to his soft snoring, her hand cradled her belly protectively. No matter what's happening, she whispered to her unborn child, I'm here for you. Always. The following day, she opened her laptop to finalize design submissions for a local contract. She stopped midway and pulled out her old email inbox, the one she used during university. She searched for the email, International Design Exchange, Dubai. There it was. The offer. The salary. The relocation package. She clicked reply, then hovered her finger over the keyboard. Her vision blurred. She had given all that up for love. And yet, was that love even real? As if in answer, her baby kicked again. She smiled through her tears and whispered, You were the dream I didn't even know I needed. But in the corner of her mind, the message on Tolu's phone echoed again. She's gone. You know what to do. And Adana, even if she didn't know it yet, had just stepped into a storm. The next morning, Adana prepared a celebratory breakfast, pancakes, fresh mangoes and coconut custard. She wore her brightest smile and her yellow Ankara gown, hoping the colors would lift Tolu's mood. He shuffled in, barely glancing at the spread. Morning, she chirped, placing a cup of steaming tea beside his plate. Tolu rubbed his temples. Did you use ginger? My stomach's funny. Adana tried not to let the sting show. Ginger helps with nausea. You said you've been stressed. Tolu mumbled a distracted thanks, and scrolled through his phone, eyes darting across the screen. Then he stood. I need to run. Adana blinked. You're not eating? Meeting. Last minute. He kissed her forehead absently. Later. She watched the door close, her appetite evaporating. The pancakes sat untouched. Later that day she met Dunny at a cafe. I told him, Adana said, stirring her smoothie. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Dunny's brow furrowed. Something's wrong. I keep telling myself he's just overwhelmed. Maybe scared. Dunny reached across the table. Or maybe he's hiding something. Ada. That text. It's not nothing. Adana hesitated. I want to trust him. I need to trust him. That night, while folding laundry, she noticed Tolu's gym bag. Curious, she unzipped it. No workout clothes. Just a crumpled hoodie that smelled of unfamiliar perfume. She sat frozen, fingers trembling. Later, as he emerged from the shower, she asked, Did you go to the gym today? Aha. What workout did you do? Cardio. Why? She smiled sadly. You forgot to pack your clothes. He paused. Just for a second. Right, he said too casually. I must have left them at work. Adana didn't reply. But in her heart, doubt took root. The delivery came fast. After 8 grueling hours in labor, Adana gave one final scream, and then silence broke into a cry. A midwife placed the baby in her arms. A girl. Tiny. Beautiful. Brown eyes like hers. But something fluttered inside her, joy, fear, exhaustion, and something she couldn't name. Tolu arrived hours later, sweaty and breathless. I came as soon as I could. She held out the baby. Meet Ter. He smiled, though it looked rehearsed. She's perfect. Adana watched how he cradled the child, arms stiff, almost unfamiliar. You missed her first cry, she whispered. He said nothing. Back home, Adana poured herself into motherhood. Midnight feedings, lullabies, diapers. She barely slept. But she didn't mind. Ter was her light. Tolu, however, grew more distant. He never changed a diaper. Barely held the baby. He claimed work overload. One night, as she held Ter during a thunderstorm, Adana whispered, Does Daddy love us? The baby cooed. Adana smiled, but in the pit of her stomach, the ache grew. During Ter's immunization appointment, a routine blood test caught Adana's attention. Her blood type is AB, the nurse said. Adana blinked. That can't be right. I'm O and Tolu is A. The nurse looked puzzled. It happens. Maybe get a full panel done later. Back home, Adana stared at her daughter. Her features. Her smile. Was she imagining the difference? The slightly lighter skin? The curl pattern unlike hers? No, she whispered. You're mine. But doubt now lived beside love. You're spiraling, Dunny said, holding Adana's hand. All mothers question themselves. But this doesn't feel like insecurity, Adana said. It feels like, I missed something important. You think Ter isn't yours? Dunny asked gently. Adana shook her head. I know she's mine in every way that matters. But biologically? I just need to be sure. Then take a DNA test. Adana hesitated. I feel like I'm betraying her by even questioning. She's a baby, Dunny replied. She won't know. But you deserve peace. That evening, as Tolu slept, Adana collected a saliva sample from Ter and sealed the kit. She mailed it the next morning. While waiting for results, Adana tried to act normal. She played peekaboo, rocked Ter to sleep and kissed her forehead like always, but she watched everything more closely now. One afternoon, Tolu returned with formula. She raised an eyebrow. She's still breastfeeding. He shrugged. Just in case. In case of what? She asked, voice sharp. He avoided her eyes. I'm trying, Adana. Try harder. That night, unable to sleep, she scrolled through her gallery. Photos of Ter at every age, every outfit, every milestone. She loved this child with every fiber of her being. The email came the next day. Subject, DNA results ready. Her hands trembled as she clicked. Probability of maternity, 0%. Adana dropped the phone. Her knees buckled. The room spun. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She ran to Ter's crib and clutched the sleeping child, sobbing uncontrollably. She's not mine. And yet, she was everything. Adana spent the next 2 days in a fog. She fed Ter, bathed her, sang lullabies, but she was numb. The DNA result haunted her like a ghost. She watched Tolu closely now. One night, around 11 p.m., she heard voices downstairs. Careful not to make a sound, she crept to the staircase and peered down. Tolu was at the door, speaking to a woman in a hoodie. She held a manila envelope and baby photos. Her voice was hushed but urgent. Adana strained to hear. You promised you'd handle it, Tolu. This wasn't the plan. I am handling it, he hissed. You showing up here will ruin everything. Adana's breath caught. The woman turned. Just before leaving, she said, she deserves to know the truth. Before someone else tells her. She vanished into the night. Adana didn't sleep. The next morning, she made breakfast as if nothing had happened. Tolu walked in humming. I saw you last night, she said quietly. He froze. Saw what? You. With that woman. What's going on? She's just someone from work. Someone who brought baby photos? Someone who said I deserve the truth. Tolu's eyes darkened. Adana, don't start. No, you don't start, she snapped. Is Ter even ours? He turned cold. You sound crazy. I took a DNA test. Silence. Tolu's shoulders slumped. He looked at the floor. She's not mine either, is she? He looked up slowly. It's not what you think. Then what is it? He hesitated. It's complicated. Adana stepped back, voice breaking. No. It's betrayal. Tolu didn't answer. But his silence said everything. 2 days after the confrontation, Adana couldn't sleep. Her mind raced. Every word, every silence between her and Tolu replayed on loop. She needed answers. Tolu had gone out to clear his head. Ter was asleep. The house was too quiet, too heavy with secrets. Something urged her toward Tolu's home office. She opened the drawer he always locked, but today it was slightly ajar. Her fingers brushed over files, old receipts, and then, an envelope marked. Private, Ter. Her breath caught. She pulled it out, sat on the edge of the couch and opened it. Inside were a birth certificate, not from their hospital. A document of guardianship, listing Remilikan Adesina as the mother and Tolu Ayandil as guardian. A photo of a newborn wrapped in a white cloth, in someone else's arms. Adana dropped the file like it burned. Remilikan Adesina. Not a stranger. Not at all. Remy was a name Adana hadn't heard in years. Tolu's former colleague. The woman who always seemed too familiar, too easy with her laughter. Adana had asked back then if something had happened between them. Tolu had said, she's just a friend. Tears welled in Adana's eyes. She hadn't just raised another woman's child. She had loved her. Given up everything for her. Been lied to, by the one man she gave her entire world. She tucked the documents back, placed the envelope where it was and stood shakily. That night, she sat beside Ter's crib, staring at the tiny chest rising and falling. I don't know where you came from, she whispered, but you are mine. Her heart was breaking, but her love held firm. The next morning, Tolu came home with coffee in hand, acting like nothing had changed. I got your favorite, he said, offering it. Adana didn't touch it. She opened the drawer, pulled out the envelope and dropped it on the table. Tolu froze. You said it was complicated, she said quietly. No, Tolu. It was calculated. He sighed and sat slowly. Let me explain. You lied to me for years. Years, Tolu. I didn't know how else to fix it. Fix what? Giving me another woman's child like she was a forgotten project. Tolu rubbed his eyes. Remy died. During childbirth. She was alone. She called me scared. I went to the hospital, but by the time I got there she was gone. Just the baby, just Tare. Adana's face contorted. And you thought the best thing to do was hand me the baby without a word? I panicked, he said, voice low. I knew we'd been trying, hoping. You just turned down Dubai. I couldn't bear to lose you too. Lose me? I thought, if you had Tare maybe we'd be okay. Maybe it'd cover what I did. Adana's voice cracked. You didn't give me a child. You stole my truth. I made a mistake, he said. No. You made a choice. He looked at her, eyes glassy. But you love her. That's real. No one can deny that. She stood up slowly. You don't get to use my love to excuse your lies. The next day Adana went digging. She found Remy's old Instagram account. Last post, a blurry selfie clearly in a hospital gown, dated 2 days before Tare's birth. Caption, bringing life into the world, wish me luck. The comments section was flooded with sorrow. Gone too soon. R.I.P. Remy. May your daughter grow up knowing how strong you were. Adana's hands shook. She scrolled back, finding photos of Remy and Tolu at corporate dinners. Her hand on his shoulder. His arm around her waist. The smile said it all. She printed the last photo and placed it beside Tare's birth certificate. Later that day Tolu returned, finding Adana at the kitchen table with the documents spread out like a crime scene. Remy was more than a fling, she said coldly. He looked away. You loved her? He hesitated. At one point, yes. And yet you let me build a family on a lie. She didn't want the baby to end up in the system, he said. She asked me to take her. I thought, if I gave Tare to you she'd have the best chance. You took my chance to choose, Adana snapped. Tolu Saturday, I never expected you to love her this deeply. But I did, she whispered, voice cracking. She's mine. And now I don't even know who I am anymore. He looked up, wounded. She still needs you. I know, she whispered. That's the cruelest part. Days passed. Adana didn't speak to Tolu unless it concerned Tare. Her world felt like it was built on sand. One night, Tolu knocked gently on her door. I need to tell you everything, he said. She folded her arms. Speak. I met Remy before we married. We lost touch. Months into our marriage, I ran into her at a tech event. One thing led to another. Adana's jaw tightened. You cheated. Yes, he said. And I ended it. But months later she called. She was pregnant. I told her I'd help. But she wanted no drama. She didn't want anyone to know. Adana scoffed. How noble. He flinched. I funded her bills, stayed in contact. But I was hiding it all from you. Then the day came. I held Tare, looked at her and thought, you deserve to be a mother. I was too much of a coward to tell the truth. You didn't do this for me, she said. You did it for yourself. To avoid losing your precious image. I'm sorry. Adana looked at him, a storm behind her eyes. You destroyed everything we had. And yet, I still wake up every night to check if her blanket is on. I still love her. Tolu's voice broke. Then you're a better person than I am. She turned away. No. I'm just the one left to clean up your mess. The weight became too much. Adana packed a few clothes, wrapped Tare in a shawl and left. No note. No explanation. She boarded a night bus to Ibadan, where her late aunt's house sat abandoned but quiet. For 3 days she said little. She bathed Tare, fed her, rocked her to sleep, but felt like a ghost living through motions. Every time Tare reached out, Adana hesitated, torn between love and heartbreak. The baby gurgled, unaware of the storm around her. On the 4th night, Adana stood at the mirror, unrecognizable. Hollow eyes. Unkempt hair. She whispered, Who am I? She sat on the floor, Tare asleep in her lap, and cried. Not quiet sobs, but deep, heaving gasps that had been buried for weeks. I'm not your real mother, she choked out. But I don't know how not to love you. She remembered her mother once saying, when love hurts, it's still love. But when it destroys you, that's something else. She held Tare tighter. I don't know if I was chosen. I don't know if I was tricked. But I know. I'm yours. The baby stirred, placed a tiny hand on Adana's cheek, and smiled. And for the first time in days, Adana smiled back. The sun dipped low as Adana sat alone on a worn bench in a quiet park. Tare toddled nearby, giggling as she chased dry leaves. Adana watched her, overwhelmed by 1,000 thoughts. Who am I to this child? A lie. A placeholder? A thief? Her eyes welled up again and she looked away, until a gentle voice broke through her haze. Beautiful child, said the elderly woman beside her, smiling. She had warm brown eyes, a gelly tied neatly around her head, and a plastic bag filled with sliced oranges. "Thank you," Adana said, forcing a smile. "She favors you." Adana's heart clenched. I didn't give birth to her." The woman nodded as if she'd already known. "But you love her?" Adana looked at Ter, who was now poking a butterfly-shaped leaf. "With everything in me." "Then you're her mother. Blood births a child. But love raises one." Adana blinked. "Even if the love began through a lie?" "My dear," the woman said, eyes wise, "sometimes the deepest bonds come from pain. That girl knows your smell, your touch, your heartbeat. You are the world she trusts." Adana covered her face, tears slipping between her fingers. "Don't let someone else's sin rob you of your motherhood," the woman whispered, patting her hand. "You're more than enough." When Adana finally looked up, the woman had stood, walking slowly with her bag of oranges. She never even asked Adana's name. But what she left behind changed everything. The next morning, Adana returned to Lagos. She walked into the house calmly, Ter asleep in her arms. Tolu was there, looking like a man aged by guilt. He stood, mouth opening then closing. "I'm not here to talk about us," she said. "Only Ter." Tolu nodded. Adana laid the baby in her crib, then turned. "You're going to tell me everything now. The real everything." Tolu sank onto the couch. "My startup, it's under investigation. Financial misconduct. Investors pulled out. The media is circling." Adana stared. "What did you do?" "Someone on my team forged documents to inflate numbers. I didn't know at first. But I signed things blindly to keep things afloat. And now, I may face charges," he muttered. "And I can't drag you or Ter into it." Adana folded her arms. "Then what's your plan?" He slid a file across the table. "I've legally transferred guardianship to you. Full rights. If anything happens to me, no one can touch her." Adana opened the folder. It was signed. Stamped. Binding. Her eyes met his. "You finally did one thing right." Later that night, she stood over Ter's crib, looking at the papers in her hand. The responsibility weighed heavier now. Ter was hers, truly and legally. But fate wasn't done testing her. 3 days later, a man showed up at her doorstep. Tall, stern. A familiar face from old photos. "I'm Deji," he said. "Remy's brother." And just like that, the battle for Ter began. Deji sat in the living room, eyes scanning every corner like he was sizing up her life. Adana sat opposite him, tense but composed. "I came to take my niece," he said bluntly. "She's not yours to take," Adana replied. "She's blood. And your husband, ex-husband or not, committed fraud. That child was taken under false pretenses." "I didn't know," Adana whispered. "I raised her. She calls me mommy." "That doesn't make you one." Adana's face tightened. "I won't let you take her." Deji pulled out a legal notice. "I've filed for custody." The next days blurred into lawyer meetings, papers, and sleepless nights. Dunny came over often to help with Ter. "You can win this," she encouraged. "They'll use biology," Adana whispered. "The truth is on his side." "But love isn't biology," Dunny reminded. "And your love is documented." In court, Deji's lawyer painted Adana as an unknowing participant in a scheme to deceive a grieving family. Adana's lawyer pushed back hard, presenting medical records, school enrollment papers, even home videos. "She's more mother than most women with the title," the attorney said firmly. Deji glared from across the courtroom. Adana stood tall. But she was terrified. She knew the law didn't always rule in favor of the heart. She also knew she wasn't leaving that courtroom without a fight. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension. Deji's lawyer was wrapping up, emphasizing Remy's will, which made no mention of guardianship. She had no idea her child would be taken and raised under a fabricated identity, he declared. Adana clenched her fists. Her lawyer stood. "The question is not who birthed the child, but who mothered her. We submit over 20 pages of medical records, immunization logs, school letters, and personal journals showing Adana's daily care." The judge nodded. "We'll review everything." Just as Adana began to hope, Deji's lawyer stood again. "One more thing, Your Honor." He walked to the evidence bench and submitted a signed confession from Tolu, admitting to forging adoption papers. The courtroom gasped. Adana's knees nearly gave way. The judge looked stunned. "This is serious." "Precisely," the lawyer said. "Adana's entire claim is based on falsified documents." Her lawyer tried to intervene. My client had no knowledge of the forgery. The judge raised a hand. We'll recess for verification and review. As Adana stepped out of the courtroom, her hands were shaking. Dunny met her in the hallway. Are you okay? I don't know anymore, she whispered. If I lose her, I lose everything. Tolu wasn't there. Not in the courtroom. Not anywhere. Until that evening. As the sun dipped low, Tolu walked into their compound, unshaven, broken, and holding a file. I'm going to fix this, he said. Adana stared, unsure whether to hope or brace for more pain. The next morning, Tolu returned to court, clean-shaven, suit-pressed, file in hand. He walked straight to the judge. I'd like to speak, he said, voice steady. The judge nodded. Go ahead. Tolu cleared his throat. The forged papers were mine. I panicked. I lied. But Adana had nothing to do with it. I acted alone. I've submitted a notarized confession, video testimony, and banking records proving she was never informed, involved, or aware. Gasps rippled through the room. Deji's lawyer stood. This still leaves the child in limbo. Tolu turned to Deji. I failed as a father. But Adana didn't. She raised Ter with more love than I ever deserved. He turned to the judge. Let her stay where she's always been safe. Adana blinked back tears. The judge sat back pensive. We'll reconvene in 48 hours with final statements. Outside the court, Tolu approached her. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said quietly. But I owed you the truth. Adana nodded. For Ter's sake, I'm glad you came. You're her mother, he said. Everyone in there knows it now. She looked up at him. I wish you had protected us sooner. I didn't know how, he admitted. She held out her hand. Then protect us now by staying away. He took it, gripped gently, then walked away for good. Inside her, something cracked open. Not pain this time. Closure. The courtroom was quiet, too quiet, as the judge cleared his throat. We've heard legal arguments, expert testimonies, and emotional statements, he said, looking from Deji to Adana. But there's one voice we haven't heard, Ter's. Adana's heart seized. She's just 5, Your Honor. I'm not asking her to testify in the box, the judge replied. But a child psychologist has spent time with her. The court approved a recorded session. A clerk wheeled in a monitor and pressed play. The screen lit up with Ter sitting on a colorful mat. She was in her pink unicorn shirt, holding a teddy bear. A kind-faced counselor knelt in front of her. Hi, sweetheart. Can you tell me who takes care of you when you're sad? Ter smiled. My mommy. And who's your mommy? Auntie Adana, she beamed. Why do you call her that? Because she's my mommy. She makes me pancakes when I have bad dreams. She sings the song with the stars. She hugs me and smells like vanilla. Adana bit her lip as tears filled her eyes. The counselor continued, Do you remember anyone else who used to take care of you? Ter paused. No. Only Auntie Adana. She always comes when I cry. Real mommies don't leave when you cry. The courtroom went still. Deji shifted uncomfortably. Even the judge blinked faster, struggling to hold his composure. The video faded to black. Adana glanced around. The lawyer. The crowd. No one moved. She wiped her face and clutched her chest. It wasn't DNA. It wasn't forged papers. It was pancakes, lullabies, sleepless nights, and a 5-year-old who knew who truly mothered her. 2 days later, the courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back, pens poised. Family court cases rarely drew this much attention, but this one was different. Adana walked in hand with Ter, who wore a white dress and held her stuffed giraffe. They sat quietly, surrounded by whispers and watching eyes. Deji sat across, arms folded. His lawyer looked more uncertain today. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Please be seated. He cleared his throat and lifted a stack of files. This court has reviewed all presented evidence. Legal documents, video recordings, parenting history, and testimony. He looked up. It is clear that Tolu Ayandil acted deceptively in the child's guardianship transfer. However, Ms. Adana Ayandil has provided unquestionable proof of emotional, psychological, and physical care. Adana gripped the bench. Her lawyer reached for her hand. Ter may not share blood with Ms. Adana, but she has been loved, raised, and protected by her since birth. He paused. In the best interest of the child, this court hereby grants full and permanent custody of Ter Adesina to Ms. Adana Ayandil. The gavel struck. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Some gasped. Others wept. Adana sat frozen. Ter leaned into her. Mommy? She pulled the girl into her arms and held her close, sobbing openly. Dunny burst into tears and hugged them both from behind. Even the opposing attorney looked away, dabbing his eyes. Deji stood slowly and left without a word. As reporters swarmed outside, Adana whispered into Ter's ear, "We're going home, baby. For real this time." And for the first time in months, the word home didn't feel like a lie. 2 months later, the apartment was quieter, but brighter. Adana had moved to a new 2-bedroom flat in Surulere. Fresh white curtains swayed by the open windows. Plants lined the balcony. Ter's giggles echoed down the hall. They were building something new. Tolu hadn't reached out since the ruling. The papers arrived via courier. He'd officially relinquished all parental rights. Adana stared at his signature, then tucked the papers away in a drawer she hoped never to open again. She wasn't angry anymore. Just free. She started a new firm called Ter Designs, specializing in family spaces and community centers. Her first client? A single mother's safe home initiative funded by a female-led nonprofit. She worked while Ter napped, played with blocks beside her drafting table, or watched cartoons with a bowl of sliced apples. "Mommy," Ter asked one day, "what's Dubai?" Adana smiled. "A place I once wanted to go." "Why didn't you go?" "I chose to stay with someone I loved." Ter tilted her head. "Did they love you back?" Adana knelt, brushing curls from her daughter's face. "Not the way they should have. But you came instead. And I wouldn't change that for anything." Ter grinned. "Then I love Dubai for bringing me you." Adana laughed through the lump in her throat. They celebrated Ter's 6th birthday with balloons, chocolate cake, and a few close friends from preschool. When Adana gave her a small necklace with a heart-shaped pendant, Ter hugged her tight. "This means I'm yours forever?" Adana kissed her forehead. "You've always been mine." That night, Ter slept peacefully, arms wrapped around her giraffe. And for once, Adana didn't stay up watching her sleep, because she finally believed they were safe. It was a quiet Saturday morning when the knock came. Adana was seated cross-legged on the floor of her living room, helping Ter cut out shapes for her school project. Colorful paper scraps littered the rug. They were building a model treehouse, complete with paper windows and a popsicle stick ladder. Another knock. Gentle. Steady. She glanced at the door, then at Ter. "Stay here, sweetheart," she said. Opening the door, Adana froze. Tolu. His face was thinner, beard trimmed close, eyes rimmed with fatigue but not anger. In his hands was a manila envelope and a small gift bag. "Hi," he said softly. Adana crossed her arms. "What are you doing here?" I wanted to see you. Say thank you. And goodbye properly." She didn't respond but didn't shut the door either. "I won't stay long," he said. "Just wanted to give you these." He handed over the envelope and the bag. Adana reluctantly took them. "I signed over all legal rights. Permanently," he said. "It's in there. Certified and final." She looked up sharply. "I already got the court papers. These go beyond the court ruling. No contest clause. No appeals. No loopholes. And the gift." He smiled sadly. "Just a music box. For her. Plays that song you used to sing, Twinkle, Twinkle. I figured, it's the only thing I got right." Adana exhaled deeply, then stepped outside and closed the door behind her. They stood on the small porch in silence. "I've spent the last few months trying to make sense of my mistakes," he said. "Truth is, there's no making sense of what I did. I hurt you. Deeply. You didn't just hurt me, Tolu. You took away my right to choose. You shattered my trust." "I know," he said. "And I'm not asking for it back. I just needed to tell you something." Adana waited. "You gave Tara life Remy never could. You gave her a mother's love without knowing the truth. And even after knowing, you stayed. That makes you the bravest woman I've ever known." Her eyes softened just slightly. "I thought I was protecting you back then," he continued. "But the truth is I was protecting myself. From shame, from losing you. It was selfish. It was wrong." Adana looked toward the closed door behind her. "She's okay," she said. "She's happy. We're healing." He nodded. "I see that. And I'll never interfere again." A long silence followed. "I forgive you," she said finally. His eyes widened. "You do?" "I'm not doing it for you," she added. "I'm doing it so I can be free. Anger takes up space I need for better things now." "For her." Tolu swallowed hard. "That's more grace than I deserve." "You're right," she replied. "But grace isn't about deserving." He opened his mouth then closed it, nodding. "You should go," she said softly. He turned to leave then paused. "Adana." She looked up. Thank you for saving her life. And for not letting my lies take hers too. Adana said nothing, only watched him walk away, down the steps, through the gate and into a car parked across the street. As she stepped back inside, she closed the door gently and leaned against it, letting out a long breath. Tara looked up from the rug. Was that Uncle Tolu? Adana smiled faintly. Yes, baby. Did he bring cake? Adana laughed, genuine and full this time. No, but he brought you something else. She opened the music box. It played the soft tune of Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star. Tara's eyes lit up. That's our song. Yes, it is. Tara danced in slow circles as the song played. Adana watched, heart full and finally, light. Later that night, after Tara had fallen asleep with the music box still humming beside her, Adana sat by her desk, pulling out the final envelope. She looked through the signed documents. Cling. Ironclad. Then she flipped over the last page and saw something unexpected. A handwritten letter. Adana. You didn't just raise her, you rescued her. You rescued me too, even if I didn't see it back then. I hope one day Tara grows up and knows the full truth, and chooses to thank you herself. But even if she never does, let this letter stand as the truth. She had a mother from the moment she first cried, and that mother was you. I don't ask for a second chance. But I wanted to say, you were always the best part of my story. I just didn't deserve you. Tolu. Adana folded the letter quietly and placed it into her drawer, beside a collection of tiny drawings Tara had made, stick figures of the two of them holding hands under a bright sun. She turned off the light, walked into her daughter's room and kissed her forehead. I choose us, she whispered. Again and again. Every time. The school auditorium was buzzing with energy. Students in crisp uniforms sat in neat rows, while proud parents leaned forward in plastic chairs, phones ready for photos and shaky videos. Adana sat quietly near the middle, her heart pounding with a mix of pride and nerves. She wore a soft blue dress and minimal makeup, but her eyes sparkled. Today wasn't just about recognition. It was about becoming. On stage, one of the teachers tapped the microphone. Welcome everyone to our annual honor assembly. Applause broke out. Tara's class had been selected for the closing segment. A few students were to give mini speeches after receiving awards. Adana already knew her daughter would be called. The teacher had told her over the phone. But what she didn't know, what no one prepared her for, was what Tara planned to say. The principal walked onto the stage and called out names. Outstanding academic performance. Amaka Osei. Best in science, Uche Obi. Adana clapped, her smile widening as familiar faces took the stage. Finally, the principal smiled. And now, we present the Character Award, given to a student who has shown exceptional kindness, bravery, and leadership. This year's recipient is Tara Desina. Adana gasped as the entire room clapped. Some teachers even stood. Tara stepped onto the stage in her tiny black shoes and yellow ribbon braids. She held the certificate with two hands and beamed. Go, baby girl, Adana whispered, heart thumping. The principal handed her a small note card. Tara shook her head. I want to speak from my heart. A hush fell over the auditorium. The microphone was lowered to her height. She cleared her throat and clutched the microphone like a professional. My name is Tara, and I want to say thank you to my teachers and my friends and everyone who clapped. Laughter rippled through the audience. But I want to talk about someone very special. Someone I call Mommy. Adana sat up straighter. Tara continued. When I was a baby, I don't remember much. But I know I cried a lot. And Mommy was always there. She held me, rocked me, even when she was tired. A few parents looked toward Adana. She blinked fast, lips trembling. Some people say that a mommy is the person who gives birth to you. But I learned that's not always true. A mommy is the person who stays when you cry. Who tells you you're magic when you feel small. Tara paused and looked toward her. My mommy didn't pick me from her tummy. She picked me with her heart. She chose me every day, even when she was sad. Someone sniffled loudly in the row behind. She never left. Even when she found out I wasn't really hers by blood. But I'm hers. Because love makes you real. And my mommy? She's the most real person I know. Adana broke. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the room burst into applause. Tara beamed and waved. The principal led her off stage and into her mother's waiting arms. Adana knelt, pulled her daughter into a hug and whispered, "You are my heartbeat." They stayed like that, locked in an embrace as cameras flashed and claps echoed. Later, on their walk home, Tara skipped ahead, holding her award like treasure. Did I do good, Mommy? She asked. You did perfect. They stopped by a small roadside vendor. Tare picked chin-chin, Adana bought bottled water. As they sat on a bench nearby, Adana took out a folded envelope. It was the last item she'd kept from the drawer, the court ruling. She tore it in half. "Mommy, why did you do that?" "Because I don't need paper to tell me what I already know," she said, tossing the pieces into the bin. "You're mine." Tare rested her head on her shoulder. "Forever." Adana smiled. "Always." That night, back home, Adana sat by her desk with a fresh sketchpad. She drew a treehouse, only this time she added 2 figures inside. A woman with curly hair. A girl with puffs and a big grin. And above it she wrote in bold pencil strokes. "Born by chance. Loved by choice. Forever ours." She looked over at Tare, asleep in her pajamas, clutching the music box. Adana turned off the lamp, whispered a final prayer of thanks, and joined her in bed. No more courts. No more lies. Just love. And that was more than enough. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.